Chapter 372. Song Wuyo ignored the hatred in his eyes. She picked up her bag and prepared to pay the bill. Gu Yanhao asked her to sit here obediently and wait for him to come back. Now that Song Nan was sitting in front of her and looking at her with hatred, she didn't want to sit here. Seeing her open her bag and take out her card, Song Nan naturally knew her intentions. "It's a wise choice for you to sever your relationship with me." Song Nan's tone was neither fast nor slow, with a hint of anger. When he thought about how he had raised an ingrate all these years, he was so angry that his entire body trembled. Song Wuyo looked up at him indifferently. "You don't like me as your daughter either, right? What was the difference between severing their relationship or not? You're not my daughter at all." Song Nan gritted his teeth. If he hadn't raised this ingrate daughter, Mrs. Gu's identity would have been his precious daughter, Song Juyue. However, his precious daughter was about to become the young madam of the Qing family, so he felt a little better. However, when he thought of his dead daughter and wife, he wished he could strangle Song Wuyo to death. Although there was no evidence to prove that Song Wuyo had killed them, their deaths were definitely related to this little bitch. Song Wuyo sneered and looked at Song Nan with an extremely cold gaze. "To think that I've called you father for so many years. Even if I'm an illegitimate child, I'm still your daughter. Do you have to treat me like this? There's nothing wrong with being an illegitimate child. What's wrong is that you fooled around outside back then." "That's right. I regret fooling around outside back then. In the end, I have to raise another man's daughter. I've let a wolf into my house and harmed myself and my family. If I were a bastard back then, I would definitely strangle you to death and throw you into the sea to feed the sharks. No one would know even if you died cleanly." Song Nan's gaze was twisted. When Song Wuyo heard this, she frowned and looked at Song Nan in confusion. "What did you say? Not his daughter, a bastard?" Song Nan glared at her hatefully. "Don't you understand? You're not my daughter. You're young Xiaolan's child with another man. I've been screwed over by her all these years." "Hee hee." Song Wuyo laughed. "Are you regretting it now?" Song Nan looked at her as if he wanted to kill her. "You've tricked me for so many years. Are you very proud? Now that I see your expression, I'm even more pleased." "You." Song Nan was furious, but there was nothing he could do. Now that she had Gu Yanhao to pamper her, she was in a good position. "Song Nan, I'm very proud of myself now. Juyue will soon be engaged to young Master Qing." Song Wuyo pursed her lips, not wanting to say anything. "Song Nan, do you know who young Master Qing is?" "The president's nephew." Song Wuyo chuckled. "Congratulations." She got up and said, "I'm leaving now." Then, he called the waiter over and settled the bill. She casually took out a stack of cash and handed it to the waiter. The waiter looked at it and said, "Mrs. Gu, I'll give you an extra 200 yuan. Song Wuyo smiled. "Here's your tip." When the waiter heard this, a smile bloomed on his face. "Thank you, Mrs. Gu." Seeing Song Wuyo leave in a hurry, Song Nan was furious. Song Wuyo had just walked to the aisle when she bumped into Gu Yanhao. Gu Yanhao was about to ask her if she wanted to go to the bathroom when he saw Song Nan walking out of the restaurant from the corner of his eye. When he saw him, Gu Yanhao seemed to know everything. He raised his eyebrows slightly and took Song Wuyo's hand. He said gently, "Let's go." In the car. Song Wuyo, who was sitting in the front passenger seat, said unhurriedly, "Song Nan said that I'm not his daughter." Chapter 373. Gu Yanhao gave her a gentle look and then went straight ahead, his hands easily controlling the steering wheel. "As long as you're my wife," he said gently. Song Wuyo turned sideways and looked at him. He said that I'm the child of my mother and another man. Gu Yanhao chuckled. It doesn't matter. Your current identity is Mrs. Gu. Song Nan gave me a very scary label. Gu Yanhao asked with interest, what label? He said that I'm a bastard. Do you care? I want to ask you if you don't care. Gu Yanhao smiled. Why should I care? I don't even know whose child you are. Gu Yanhao looked at her deeply. No matter whose child you are, I don't care. Song Wuyo, what I want is you, not your family's identity and status. Actually, I already knew that you're not Song Nan's daughter. When Song Wuyo heard this, she looked at him in surprise. You already knew. Gu Yanhao pursed his thin lips. Yes. Song Wuyo looked at him. Why didn't you tell me? Gu Yanhao, there's no need. Song Wuyo's heart softened when she heard this. At this moment, the phone in her bag rang. Maybe Su Jing asked me to bring food back for her, Song Wuyo said as she took out her phone. You spoil Su Jing too much. Gu Yanhao glanced at her. At this moment, she took out her phone. Gu Yanhao glanced at the shining screen. It was not Su Jing, but Migu. His eyes deepened and his eyebrows raised slightly. Migu called. Song Wuyo's heart tightened. She suddenly had a bad feeling. In the morning, she had talked to Mushin on the phone. Mushin had complained to her that Ban Jianing wanted her to help him bathe, Migu. Song Wuyo's expression changed when she heard the other party. Okay. I'll be there right away. After hanging up, Gu Yanhao asked with concern, what happened? Song Wuyo said anxiously, Jianing is injured and is being sent to the hospital for treatment. Ah ho, send me there quickly. Hiss, hearing this, Gu Yanhao immediately turned the car around. The sudden screeching sound of the tires was frightening. Don't worry. Gu Yanhao comforted Song Wuyo while he was driving. After all, Song Wuyo was a person who had seen big scenes, so she did not appear to be very flustered. She simply said, didn't you say that Migu can protect him? How did he get injured? On the other end of the phone, Migu only told her the name of the hospital and didn't go into detail. There are many kinds of injuries. For example, Jianing might have hurt himself. How is that possible? Mushin just said this morning that he was pestering her very much. Song Wuyo was worried. Gu Yanhao arrived at the hospital Migu had reported at full speed. It took almost 3 hours. Outside the emergency room, Migu and Mushin were waiting anxiously. Seeing Gu Yanhao and Song Wuyo appear, Mushin burst into tears and rushed forward to hug Song Wuyo. Sister Wuyo, Song Wuyo comforted Mushin while looking at Migu anxiously. How is Jianing? Is he seriously injured? Migu looked at her apologetically. He's in the emergency room. There's a stab wound on his chest and it's bleeding. Gu Yanhao looked at him sharply. Why is there a stab wound on his chest and bleeding? Migu, outsiders can't enter your ranch without your permission, right? Jiao, at this moment, the door of the emergency room suddenly opened. Song Wuyo hurried forward. Doctor, is the patient's condition serious? How is he now? Migu's words were stuck in his throat. He looked at Song Wuyo guiltily and apologetically. The patient has lost too much blood and needs a blood transfusion immediately. But he has O blood type, and our hospital happens to lack this type of blood. Which one of you is the patient's family, or who has O blood type? If not, we'll have to transfer blood from other hospitals or find someone to transfuse it with, which will delay things. In addition, the patient has leukemia, so we can't guarantee. What did you say? Gu Yanhao suddenly looked at the doctor sharply. The patient has leukemia. Aren't you his family? The doctor was surprised. He has no symptoms. It's still in the early stage. If we wait a few days, the symptoms will worsen. The doctor glanced at them. Which one of you is the patient's family? If you want to do bone marrow surgery, come with me for a bone marrow examination. If it matches, prepare for bone marrow surgery. The patient can fully recover after early surgery and rest. Chapter 374. Gu Yanhao looked at Song Wuyo. Seeing her worried and nervous expression, a hint of heartache flashed across his eyes. Wuyu, go with the doctor for a blood transfusion and a bone marrow examination, he said in a low voice. Can I do it? Song Wuyo asked in surprise. Good girl, go with the doctor. Gu Yanhao looked up and touched her face lovingly. Okay. Song Wuyo looked at the doctor. Please do it as soon as possible. Come in and draw blood. After Song Wuyo went in, Magoo looked at Gu Yanhao deeply. Why did he let Wuyu go in for a blood transfusion and a bone marrow examination so calmly? His expression made Magoo feel that Song Wuyo's bone marrow was compatible with Ban Jianning's bone marrow. Feeling Magoo's questioning gaze, Gu Yanhao looked at him. How did Ban Jianning get injured? I was playing games with him in the room. Zhou Yue came in with us. I just went to the bathroom. After a while, I heard him shouting. When he ran out, he was holding a fruit knife in his hand and his chest was bleeding. The person who answered Gu Yanhao was Mu Axian. Seeing Ban Jianning holding a knife in his hand, bleeding from his chest, lying on the ground shouting and screaming, Mu Axian was scared. Song Zhou Yue. Gu Yanhao's eyes suddenly turned cold when he heard this. She sent an invitation over. She's getting engaged with Qing Junhua next month, Magoo said. Ever since he knew that Song Zhou Yue wanted to harm Song Wuyo, Magoo was very repulsed by this woman. He had already deleted this person from his system. The moment she entered the ranch, his phone rang. The screen showed that the person who had entered was her. He was waiting for her in the small bungalow. Only then did he know that she was here to send an invitation. Her engagement with Qing Junhua really surprised him and Mu Axian. You suspect that Ban Jianning's injury has something to do with Song Zhou Yue? Magoo suddenly asked. Zhou Yue said that Jianning hurt himself because he lost the game, Mu Axian said. Gu Yanhao, where is she? Mu Axian, the bathroom. On the way here, she looked very scared. I'll go see her. After Mu Axian left, Gu Yanhao looked directly at Wuyo. What's the relationship between Jianning and Wuyu? Brother and sister, Gu said indifferently. He knew Magoo well. If he didn't say anything, Magoo would go back and investigate. It was better to tell him the truth than to investigate and possibly alert the enemy. Hearing this, Magoo's pupil shrank. You mean, Gu Yanhao looked deeply at Magoo. That's right. They were the descendants of the president's children. Magoo suddenly felt a storm in his heart. Song Wuyo was actually Ban Dechang's daughter. I suspect that Song Zhou Yue is the cause of Jianning's injury. Gu Yanhao glanced coldly at the door of the emergency room. Magoo pursed his thin lips and didn't say anything. After hearing Gu Yanhao's words, he thought about the relationship between Ban Jianning and Ban Dekang, and then the relationship between Song Zhou Yue and Qing Junhua. Song Zhou Yue might have been instructed by Qing Junhua to do this. Mu Axian and Song Zhou Yue came back. Gu Yanhao and Magoo didn't discuss anything anymore. When Song Zhou Yue saw Gu Yanhao, she was first stunned, then she looked aggrieved and scared. She walked over with small steps, like a frightened little girl who had not recovered from her shock for a long time. Are you okay? Magoo pretended to care about her, but his gaze was colder than ever. I'm so scared. Song Jiuyue raised her head and looked at Migu pitifully. Jianing suddenly took out a knife and looked like he was going to stab me. I took a step back and saw him stabbing his own heart. It was so scary. Chapter 375. In order not to alert the enemy and make Song Jiuyue lower her guard, Gu Yanhao glanced at her indifferently and did not expose her. If he exposed her now, he did not know what Qing Junhua would do next. Migu seemed to have a telepathic connection with Gu Yanhao. At this moment, he also had the same thought. Migu blinked, his long eyelashes hiding the emotions in his eyes. He said to Song Jiuyue, Jianing is a mental patient. It's expected that she would hurt herself. I thought she was going to stab me. The scene at that time was really scary. Song Jiuyue's face was still filled with lingering fear. Migu took a deep look at Mushin. Mushin, send Jiuyue back. After saying that, Migu looked at Song Jiuyue ambiguously. I'm sorry to have frightened you. Song Jiuyue composed herself and looked up. She inadvertently glanced at Gu Yanhao and said, I wonder how Jianing is doing. It's a little serious. You can go back. Migu's voice was neither warm nor cold. I want to wait for him to come out. Gu Yanhao glanced at her coldly and said with a hint of sarcasm, Miss Song, when did you start to care so much about a mental patient? Song Jiuyue was stunned and looked at Gu Yanhao with some pain and grievance. Gu Yanhao continued coldly, Jianing is just a mental patient. He has no relatives or friends with you. With your arrogance, shouldn't you stay far away? Young Master Gu, I'm just worried about Jianing's injury. The surgery will continue for another 5 hours. Do you want to continue waiting? Gu Yanhao looked at Song Jiuyue sharply. When Song Jiuyue heard that, she thought to herself, why is it taking so long? Hasn't that fool been in there for more than 3 hours? A 5-hour surgery. If she was here, Qing Junhua would call her and ask about Ban Jianing's situation. She could not answer in front of them. The surgery would continue for another 5 hours. Ban Jianing would not die soon, right? You can go back. You can stay at the ranch for a few days if you want, Migu said to Song Jiuyue. Song Jiuyue hesitated for a moment. Then I'll go back. She looked at Muaxian. Muaxian, you don't have to send me off. I can do it myself. Oh. Mushin still had lingering fears. Although she didn't like Ban Jianing, she was still worried when she saw him bleeding so much. Since Migu was here, she wanted to be here too. 3 days later. Song Wuyo's bone marrow matched Ban Jianing's bone marrow. Ban Jianing's operation was very successful. But Ban Jianing's body was very weak. It had been 2 days since the operation and he still hadn't woken up. After the blood and bone marrow were drawn, Song Wuyo did not look well. She was not sure if it was because she was worried about Ban Jianing's illness or because she knew she was Ban Dechang's daughter. She sat in front of the bed and kept Ban Jianing company. She looked at Ban Jianing quietly. Nothing was too strange in this world. She didn't expect that after coming here, he was still her younger brother. Her blood-related younger brother, leukemia. If they couldn't find a matching bone marrow, or if the results were found out later, he would die at any time. Why did she let her younger brother suffer like this? Damn it! Who said that accumulating good fortune in this life would lead to a better life in the next life? She had seen with her own eyes that her younger brother was kind and passionate in his previous life. He didn't even kill a pig or a cow. Why was it that he didn't have a good life after coming here? Song Wuyo pursed her lips. Her expression was gloomy. Maybe it was because of her. During the 8 years of war, her hands were stained with the blood of countless people. Chapter 376. Although it was the enemy's army, it was still a human life. She had killed many people in her previous life, and her hands were stained with blood. However, wasn't retribution reaped on her? Why did it have to be retribution on her innocent brother? The more Song Wuyo thought about it, the more she felt a sense of hatred for the common people. Gu Yanhao came in with food. When he saw her sitting in front of the bed, looking frail and sad, his heart sank. "I made porridge for you personally," Gu Yanhao said gently. Song Wuyo raised her head and looked at Gu Yanhao with a complicated expression. Gu Yanhao smiled at her. "What's the matter?" She was very angry now. Angry that Gu Yanhao did not tell her that her brother was locked up in the mental hospital. If it were not for that chance encounter, she thought that her brother would have been hacked to death in the mental hospital. The thought of meeting him and seeing the 2 scars on his arm and shoulder made her feel as though her heart was being cut out. Angry that he said that it would be safe to send him to the farm, but now, he was lying in the hospital. Angry that he knew that she was Bandichang's daughter, but he hid it from her. Song Wuyo pursed her lips tightly, looking indifferent. How could Gu Yanhao not know that she was angry? He put down the things and stood behind her, placing his hands gently on her shoulders. "Wuyo, I can understand how you feel." "You don't understand." Song Wuyo smiled bitterly. "You will never understand how I feel in this lifetime. There's a reason why I didn't tell you the truth. Don't be angry with me." Gu Yanhao's eyes were deep. "If you didn't send Jenning to the farm, he wouldn't have been injured." Gu Yanhao smiled helplessly. "Why don't you think positively? If he wasn't injured, how could you have found out that he had leukemia so early? Leukemia is quite scary. Not every patient can survive the surgery successfully. Some patients will die on the 2nd or 3rd day if they are discovered too late. Even if you have the bone marrow and money, you can't do the surgery. No matter what, the surgery is very successful now. Let him rest well in the future. He can live healthily. Isn't that good? Don't say any more." Song Wuyo was a little upset. "Have some porridge." Gu Yanhao's soft voice carried a trace of determination. "No matter how bad your mood is, you have to eat porridge." Song Wuyo was not a 3-year-old child. She knew that no matter how bad her mood was, she had to eat something. She reached for the lunchbox, but Gu Yanhao beat her to it. "I'll feed you." Song Wuyo glared at him coldly. "I'm not crippled." His words caused Gu Yanhao to narrow his eyes. For a moment, he was stunned and his heart clenched. Song Wuyo took the lunchbox and started eating. Gu Yanhao walked around the bed and sat down on the other side of the bed. He looked deeply at Song Wuyo and smiled bitterly. "I've lost to you." Now, he was very afraid that she would be angry and ignore him. This feeling was quite uncomfortable. Song Wuyo looked at him unhappily and then ate the porridge. The porridge was burnt. She frowned. "It tastes awful." "Magu's pot is not good," Gu Yanhao said. "Why don't you say that your skills are not up to standard? Am I such a stupid person? I don't even know how to cook porridge." In the end, the porridge was burnt. There was a burnt smell. "I still have to eat it." After a pause, Gu Yanhao looked at her deeply. "Honey, don't be angry with me, okay?" Song Wuyo looked at him indifferently. "If you continue talking, I won't eat." It was a blatant threat, but Gu Yanhao surrendered. He really wanted to write Song Wuyo to be angry and ignore young Master Gu. He wanted to torture him. "Forget it. I already see young Master Gu as my husband. I love my husband so much. How can I bear to torture him? Even if he is wrong, I love him so much and will tolerate him. I'd better continue to spoil him." Chapter 377. Gu Yanhao pursed his lips and looked at her quietly. She ate one mouthful at a time calmly, and when she raised her hand, there was a sense of nobility. Gu Yanhao liked looking at her like this more and more. Indeed, beauty was in the eye of the beholder. Suddenly, he realized that he could never get tired of looking at her. Feeling his gaze on her, Song Wuyo raised her eyes and glanced at him coldly. After eating, Song Wuyo placed the food box on the counter and said in a queenly tone, "Wash the dishes." Gu Yanhao curled his lips and got up to wash the dishes. Jianing hasn't woken up yet. Magoo came in. With the car keys hanging from his fingers, he stood in front of the bed and looked at Ban Jianing deeply. Song Wuyo raised her head and looked at him. Not yet. Magoo looked apologetic. Wuyo, I'm really sorry. I promised to take good care of him, but he got injured. Song Wuyo said, you don't have to feel too guilty. Perhaps this is God's will. Gu Yanhao was right. If Jianing hadn't gotten injured this time, they wouldn't have found out that he had leukemia in time. If she had waited until she found out that it was terminal and couldn't be operated on, she would have broken down. Magoo pursed his lips and didn't say anything else. No matter how much he said now, it was useless. His only hope was that Ban Jianing could recover quickly. Gu Yanhao came out of the dishes and heard Song Wuyo's words. His gaze darkened and his face turned cold. Magoo apologized to her and she said that it was God's will. He apologized to her and she blamed him for sending Ban Jianing to the ranch. For a moment, Gu Yanhao's pettiness acted up again. He walked over with a dark face and pulled a chair over to sit down. Magoo raised his eyebrows when he saw his dark face. Was this man on the wrong side of the bed? Ah ho, I'll stay behind to take care of Jianing. You guys go back and rest, Magoo said. His heart ached when he saw Song Wuyo's pale face. If I don't go back, what if Jianing wakes up and wants to see me? Song Wuyo was worried. You've been sitting here for a long time, Gu Yanhao said with a sullen face. Mushin, Ban Jianing seemed like he was about to wake up. In a daze, his head swayed left and right as he called out for Mushin. Jianing, are you awake? Song Wuyo was pleasantly surprised. She leaned forward and looked at Ban Jianing anxiously. When Magoo saw that Ban Jianing had woken up, he pressed the bell. Ban Jianing slowly opened his eyes. His unfocused eyes swept over them and finally landed on Song Wuyo. Jianing. Song Wuyo gave Ban Jianing the most gentle smile. Sister. Ban Jianing softly called out, his voice extremely weak. Song Wuyo was even more excited when he called her sister than when he called her sister earlier. Is there anything wrong with Jianing? Song Wuyo asked. Ban Jianing didn't answer her. Where's Mushin? He asked. Mushin didn't come, Magoo said. No. I want to see Mushin, Ban Jianing wanted to throw a tantrum again, but his whole body was in pain. He couldn't kick and wave like before. But he frowned and was very unhappy. I'll call her and ask her to come over. Magoo turned around and called Mushin. In less than 20 minutes. Mushin appeared in the ward. The doctor gave Ban Jianing a comprehensive checkup and confirmed that he would be fine as long as he rested well. Mushin. Seeing Mushin, Ban Jianing smiled happily even though his whole body was in pain and his body was weak. His gaze refused to move away from Mushin. Why did you call me over? Mushin was originally video chatting with Qing Junhua. She was very unhappy when Magoo called her over.
Chapter 378. Seeing Ban Jianing's ecstatic look when he saw her, she was even more unhappy. He was already so sick, yet he still pestered her. Couldn't he just stay put and recuperate? Stay with me. Ban Jianing looked at Mushin and said. Mushin was speechless. There were so many people. Why did he want her to stay with him? Mushin and Magoo stayed to accompany Ban Jianing. Gu Yanhao took Song Wuyo back to the ranch. Song Wuyo thought that Ban Jianing would ask for her when he woke up. She didn't expect him to ask to see Mushin. After returning to the ranch, Song Wuyo, who had just eaten some porridge, was hungry. She wanted to go into the kitchen to make food, but Gu Yanhao stopped her and sat her down on the sofa. He said gently, "Sit down and rest. What do you want to eat? I'll make it for you. Cook me a bowl of noodles." Song Wuyo really couldn't think of anything more convenient and faster than noodles. "I'll cook for you." Before Gu Yanhao left, he warned her, "Don't move. Sit down obediently. The doctor said that you can't do strenuous exercise for 2 weeks after your bone marrow was extracted." Song Wuyo was speechless. Could this man not distinguish between moderate exercise and strenuous exercise? Not long after, Gu Yanhao came out with a tray. On the tray were 2 bowls full of noodles. At the thought of Song Wuyo having her blood and bone marrow extracted, Gu Yanhao couldn't wait to give her the most nutritious food in the world. But the doctor said that it was better to eat light. In her current condition, it was not suitable for her to eat too much. Magoo had some in the fridge. He thought it was light and nutritious, so he put it all in. The bowl of noodles was full of rich ingredients. Eggs, meat, and vegetables were indispensable. There were also 2 big Australian lobsters. "Is it delicious?" Song Wuyo looked at the 2 bowls of colorful noodles in front of her. There were so many ingredients. Would it taste weird? "I've tasted it. It tastes pretty good." Gu Yanhao gently pushed a bowl in front of her. "If you don't believe me, try it." Song Wuyo picked up her chopsticks, but before she could pick it up, Gu Yanhao's concerned voice sounded, "It's so hot, take it slow." Song Wuyo smiled and took a small bite. It tastes pretty good." When Gu Yanhao heard this, he raised the corner of his lips proudly. "I don't know if it's because I'm too hungry," Song Wuyo said. Gu Yanhao snorted. "It's because I'm good at cooking." Song Wuyo picked up the big lobster meat and looked at Gu Yanhao who was eating. "You want some too? Are you the only one who's hungry? I'm not an immortal. There are prawns. Aren't you afraid of allergies?" "No, the prawns were placed last. I don't smell anything." When Song Wuyo heard this, she breathed a sigh of relief. Gu Yanhao looked up with a smile in his eyes. "Honey, you're getting more and more concerned about me. You talk when you're eating noodles.
Be careful not to burn your tongue. Seeing you like this, I'm in a good mood. You're finally not angry." For the past 3 days, she had been in a heavy mood, so he had been very careful. "I'm not a pretentious person." After eating the noodles, Song Wuyo took the initiative to clean up the dishes. Gu Yanhao quickly snatched the dishes. "I'll do these rough chores." "Is this considered rough chores?" Song Wuyo was puzzled. "Of course. Have you forgotten what the doctor said? You can't do strenuous exercise. It's just washing the dishes. How can it be considered strenuous exercise?" Song Wuyo found it funny. Gu Yanhao washed the dishes and put them back. Then, he went upstairs with Song Wuyo to rest. Gu Yanhao lay on the bed with Song Wuyo in his arms. Song Wuyo must have been too tired. After lying down for a while, she fell asleep. Gu Yanhao turned sideways and looked at the woman lying on his arm. His lips curved into an extremely tender smile. Chapter 379. There was also a gentle smile in his deep eyes. His slender fingers lifted a strand of her soft hair and played with it in his hand. When she was asleep, she was less indifferent and more peaceful. She looked like an obedient little girl. Gu Yanhao kissed her forehead lovingly. The body in his arms was so soft that it made his blood boil. However, he knew his limits. After all, this was Migu's house. Moreover, the doctor said that she could not do any vigorous exercise for the next 2 weeks. Gu Yanhao's eyes suddenly became still. Why didn't he ask clearly if vigorous exercise included sex? He felt aggrieved when he thought that he could only touch her for 2 weeks. Gu Yanhao did not sleep deeply. He just took a short nap. When Song Wuyo opened her eyes, she met with his slightly bloodshot eyes. She smiled calmly. "You're awake." "I slept for a while, but I can't sleep anymore." Gu Yanhao looked at her and said. "Not sleepy." He had been accompanying her in the hospital for the past 3 days. Gu Yanhao's fingers brushed across her cheeks and neck. He smiled. "Sleepy. Why can't you sleep if you're sleepy?" "Because I'm holding a beauty in my arms." Gu Yanhao smiled charmingly. "It seems that you don't need to hug me to sleep in the future." In case he could not sleep well and end up with kidney problems. "If I don't hug you to sleep, I'll lose sleep completely." Gu Yanhao rubbed Song Wuyo's shoulders. "Stop fooling around. Get up and eat something before we go to the hospital." Song Wuyo thought that Gu Yanhao wanted to do something to her and pushed his hand away. Moreover, Ban Jianing was her biological brother. She had rested and was not so tired. She should change people and let Muxin and her brother come back. "Just let me touch you." Gu Yanhao hugged her waist and his hands touched her back irregularly. "What are you touching?" "You can only touch but not eat. You'll feel worse. The doctor said that I can't do vigorous exercise." Gu Yanhao's eyes were deep. "When have you ever been vigorous in this kind of thing?" "It's all because of me." When Song Wuyo heard this, her face was extremely hot. She shyly stared at him. "You are really getting more and more shameless." Why didn't she realize that he was so shameless before? "Just give me a kiss." He wanted to satisfy his cravings. Although Song Wuyo was very unwilling, did she have any room to resist? The answer was clear, no. Gu Yanhao hugged her and kissed her for a very long time. The kiss was also very deep. The strength of his hug was as if he wanted to melt her into his blood and bones. Song Wuyo was kissed until her mind was muddled and her breathing became erratic. Only then did he reluctantly let go of her. Her pale face was flushed red from his kisses, like a ripe peach. It was so charming. Gu Yanhao stared at her rosy cheeks with a scorching gaze and smirked. "I'm going to kiss you more in the future. You're even more beautiful after I kiss you." Song Wuyo stared at him bitterly. "Why didn't I realize that you were such an evil hooligan before? If I knew that you were such an evil hooligan, I wouldn't love you anymore. I just like the abstinent you." In this world, there are no abstinent men. Only when you haven't met a woman that you're crazy about would you be abstinent. If you don't have any reaction when facing the woman you love, that's not abstinence. That's because you can't even have sex even if you want to. That's also known as eunuchs. In front of her, Gu Yanhao not only became a hooligan, he also became eloquent. All right, she agreed with him. Besides, they were husband and wife. She held his resolute and handsome face and said seriously, "I really can't do vigorous exercise. For your comfort, let's go to the hospital to accompany Jianing." Chapter 380. Okay. Gu Yanhao nodded, a smile in his deep eyes. "I'll ask Jianing's attending doctor if he can exercise in advance." 2 weeks. That was half a month. He couldn't touch her for half a month. It was worse than death. "You have the nerve to ask such a question." Song Wuyo's mouth twitched. I'm too embarrassed to ask. You can ask. I won't ask. Gu Yanhao and Song Wuyo came to the ward. Ban Jianing was asleep, and Migu was with him. Muxin was nowhere to be seen. Seeing them, Migu's eyes stopped on Song Wuyo for 2 seconds. Then he raised his eyebrows slightly and looked at Gu Yanhao. Why are you here? Gu Yanhao, we're here to change shifts. You can go back to the ranch. Actually, it's fine if I stay here, Migu said. Let's stay, Song Wuyo said. There's a bed here. If I'm tired, I can rest here. With that, Song Wuyo looked around. Where's Muxin? Did she go back? When they came, they didn't see her car. She just left. After Jianing went to bed. Oh. Song Wuyo could tell that Ban Jianing liked to pester Muxin, but Muxin disliked him. Gu Yanhao walked over and patted Migu's shoulder. He said in a deep voice, you can go back. Okay, then I'll go back. Call me if you need anything. Since the couple was here, Migu didn't want to stay too long. After walking out of the ward, Migu's eyes became very gloomy. Ban Jianing was in the last ward of the hospital. It was a suit-style VIP ward. Ban Jianing was in a large ward with a small room for the patient's family to rest. There was also a separate bathroom and kitchen. Ban Jianing had leukemia and bone marrow transplant surgery. It was estimated that he would be discharged in 3 months. Song Wuyo knew that Migu was busy, and Muxin had to go to university. They couldn't make them cook 3 meals every day. Song Wuyo saw that the kitchen here was quite big. Thinking that she had been accompanying Ban Jianing here for the past 3 months, she simply cooked here. The pots and bowls here looked quite clean. She picked up the rice cooker and wanted to wash it clean and cook some porridge. When she was hungry or Ban Jianing wanted to eat, they could eat it. Gu Yanhao saw her take the pot to the faucet. He hurried in and asked, Honey, what are you doing? To wash the pot, Song Wuyo said. When Gu Yanhao heard this, his face immediately darkened. What for? I want to cook some porridge. Jianing woke up. Feed him. If I'm hungry in the middle of the night, I can eat too. Didn't I say that I'll do the rough work? Gu Yanhao snatched the pot away and chased her out. Get out. Don't enter the kitchen so often in the future. Song Wuyo was puzzled. I can't even enter the kitchen more after my bone marrow is extracted. This has nothing to do with bone marrow extraction. Then why should I enter the kitchen less in the future? She rarely entered the kitchen. If she entered less, she basically didn't need to enter. You're the Honorable Mrs. Gu. You don't need to do the rough work in the kitchen. Also, your beautiful little hands are for me to hold and touch my strong body. They're not for me to wash the dishes and pots. Song Wuyo smiled. Was this how he loved her? Then wash all the pots and bowls. Jianing has to stay in the hospital to recuperate for 3 months. During these 3 months, I have to cook here. Moreover, there was a supermarket opposite the hospital. It was very convenient to buy ingredients. When Gu Yanhao heard this, he raised his eyebrows. Then he would call Su Jing over. He would let Su Jing do the rough work of cooking. He could also let Su Jing and Migu meet more and interact more. Chapter 381. When Song Wuyo came out, she saw Ban Jianing staring quietly at the light tube on the wall. Song Wuyo stopped in her tracks and looked at Ban Jianing. Seeing how quiet he was, she really couldn't believe that his IQ had stopped at a 5-year-old's. Ban Jianing's eyes suddenly turned and moved to Song Wuyo. The moment he saw Song Wuyo, he suddenly grinned and revealed a silly smile. Because of his weak body, he didn't laugh out loud. But the current him and the one who was looking at the light tube in deep thought seemed like two different people. "Sister, you're here?" he asked softly. His slightly hoarse voice had a hint of childishness. Song Wuyo smiled and walked over. She said softly, "Didn't you just fall asleep? Why did you wake up so quickly? Where's Mushin?" Ban Jianing glanced at the ward and looked at Song Wuyo faintly. "Mushin is very tired." "Seeing that you're asleep, she went back," Song Wuyo said. "She's very tired." Ban Jianing frowned slightly and looked unhappy. "She has to revise and other things to do. Of course she's tired when she comes to accompany you. But I want to be with her." Ban Jianing pouted. "Then you have to take care of yourself. When you're discharged, you'll have more time to be with her." "Okay." Ban Jianing suddenly smiled and narrowed his eyes. He looked a little cute. "I like Mushin very much. More than I like sister." Song Wuyo smiled. "Jianing, your words are a blow to sister." Ban Jianing just smiled and didn't say anything. Song Wuyo was silent for 3 seconds. After glancing at his chest, she stared at Ban Jianing. "Jianing, isn't it good to live with Mushin? Why did you suddenly hurt yourself?" "Sister, what's hurting yourself?" Ban Jianing blinked and looked at Song Wuyo curiously. "Why did you stab yourself with a knife?" "Zhou Yue. Her name is Zhou Yue." Song Wuyo was shocked. "What? Song Zhou Yue?" Gu Yanhao and Migu did not mention to her that Song Zhou Yue was present when Ban Jianing was injured. Now that she heard Ban Jianing say this, she was extremely shocked. "So, your injury was caused by Song Zhou Yue?" Song Wuyo frowned, and her eyes suddenly became cold. "It hurts." Ban Jianing suddenly felt pain in his chest. He frowned. After the bone marrow surgery, his whole body hurt. Seeing that his forehead was covered in cold sweat due to the pain, and his face was so pale that there was no trace of blood, Song Wuyo stopped asking him. She pressed the call button, took out a tissue, and gently wiped his sweat. She said gently, "Jianing, I'll call the doctor for you." Soon, the attending doctor arrived. After examining Ban Jianing, she told Song Wuyo that the pain from the wound was normal. Letting him sleep would reduce the pain. Not long after the doctor left, Ban Jianing fell asleep again. Gu Yanhao and Song Wuyo sat facing each other across Ban Jianing's bed. Gu Yanhao looked at her without blinking, and she looked at Ban Jianing without blinking. Seeing her own brother in such pain, she was really heartbroken. Seeing her face full of pain, Gu Yanhao's eyes deepened. At this moment, Song Wuyo looked up and looked at him indifferently. Jianing was injured. Song Zhou Yue was present. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I can handle this matter," Gu Yanhao said in a low voice. "How? Where is Song Zhou Yue now?" "She returned to M City." Wuyo, Song Zhou Yue came to the ranch to stab Ban Jianing. It was Qing Junhua who ordered her to do so.
Chapter 382. Song Wuyo frowned. So, the Ban family's downfall was really caused by the Qing family. We don't have complete evidence yet, but Song Zhou Yue will be engaged to Qing Junhua next month. I think she was used by Qing Junhua. Otherwise, Song Zhou Yue had no reason to stab Ban Jianing. Gu Yanhao's eyes were cold. Qing Jianxin is a cunning person. On the surface, he loves his country and his people, but in fact, he used his position as the president to gain a lot of benefits for himself. Before he became the president, he was already the vice president. The Ban family was ruined, and no media dared to report this. Once President Ban died, Qing Jianxin became the president and abolished the vice president's position. I think he wants to dominate the whole K country, or maybe he's afraid of what happened to President Ban happening to him. In order to prevent the position of the president from being taken away by someone powerful, he has already said that after he retires, Cheng Junhua will take over the position of the president. If someone wants to usurp the throne and kill Cheng Jianxin, Cheng Junhua will immediately take over. If someone kills Cheng Junhua, Cheng Jianxin will definitely be alerted, and then Cheng Jianxin will retaliate. Cheng Jianxin and Cheng Junhua have a deep uncle and nephew relationship. Cheng Junhua should know about Ban Dechang's death and that Jianing ran out. In order to prevent the matter from being exposed, he had to kill Jianing. But Cheng Junhua is a smart person. He is the president, the person with the highest position in the country. Naturally, he won't do it himself. Who knows how many pawns they have under them? For example, the driver of the truck that I injured last time. He is a terminal cancer patient and is about to die, but as long as he kills Jianing, he will have a sum of money for his 80-year-old mother to spend her old age and money for his young daughter to change her eye mask so that she can see again. I've checked. The driver went home with a pile of cash. This money didn't flow in the bank. The person who gave him the money was a black man. I started investigating this black man and found out that the person who gave him the money was a middle-aged woman. One by one, the leads were cut off. And this has nothing to do with the Cheng family. At that time, they only knew that if they handed the money to the other party, they could get a few thousand yuan. If they didn't hand it over, they would die a horrible death. Moreover, the surveillance cameras at the scene of the incident would have been destroyed beforehand. Without witnesses and surveillance cameras, the clues would have been cut off. The rest are just suspicions. Gu Yanhao talked non-stop to Song Wuyo. Song Wuyo also understood. Cheng Jianxin and Cheng Junhua were really cunning. Where's Song Jiuyue? Song Wuyo's eyes were cold. The relationship between Song Jiuyue and Cheng Jun has already surfaced.
Can we find out that Cheng Junhua was the one who ordered her to assassinate Jianing? Gu Yanhao smiled. Cheng Junhua and Song Jiuyue are not fools. Song Jiuyue said that Jianing harmed himself. Even if Jianing said that Song Jiuyue stabbed him, it can't convict them. The judge will say that Ban Jianing has a mental problem and his words can't be used as evidence. Moreover, between the words of a person with a mental problem and the words of a presidential candidate, who will the people choose to believe? After Song Wuyo heard this, she gritted her teeth. She didn't expect that usurping power in this world could be so scary. Countless people were killed and people were stepped on to become the president. I can't just let it go and pretend that nothing happened. Song Wuyo looked at Gu Yanhao anxiously. Jianing is my family. He's my only blood relative in this world. Chapter 383. Gu Yanhao looked at Song Wuyo deeply. Of course, we won't give up, and they won't give up either. I will strengthen the protection of you and Jianing. If Cheng Jianxin knows that you are also Ban Dechang's daughter, your situation will be more dangerous than Jianing's. Song Wuyo understood this point. We'll pretend that Jianing really did stab himself and secretly observe their next move. If we have evidence, can we trip Cheng Jianxin? Song Wuyo asked. Silly girl, it's easier said than done to trip Cheng Jianxin. For more than 10 years, he has raised a group of loyal people. Before we trip him, we have to destroy the most capable people around him. Cheng Junhua. Song Wuyo asked. It's Cheng Jianping's whole family, but it's obviously not possible. Cheng Junhua and Muxin are a couple. And Mrs. Ji Er was her mother. Besides Cheng Jianping's family, is there anyone else? Cheng Jianxin's adopted daughter. So, it's not easy to trip Cheng Jianxin and avenge Ban Jianxin. Gu Yanhao looked at Song Wuyo. Don't do anything impulsive and stupid. You have to discuss anything with me in the future. Okay. Song Wuyo frowned thoughtfully. I won't do anything impulsive and stupid. Tomorrow, bodyguards will take turns to protect Jianing, Gu Yanhao said. Okay. Song Wuyo nodded and looked thoughtfully at Ban Jianing, who was sleeping soundly. At noon the next day, 4 young women appeared in the ward. Gu Yanhao said that they were his people, the bodyguards who came to protect Ban Jianing. They looked over and saw that she was about 27 years old. She was dressed in tight-fitting clothes and had a ponytail. She looked capable and cool. Their facial features were exquisite, and their eyes were sharp. They took turns to guard the door of the ward. Except for Gu Yanhao, Song Wuyo, Migu, and Mu Xin, everyone, including the medical staff, had to be checked before they could enter. All of a sudden, the medical staff thought that Ban Jianing was an important figure. All of them were in a state of panic, especially his attending doctor. He was afraid that if he had treated Ban Jianing badly before, he would be scolded, beaten up, and so on. Su Jing came with the 3 female bodyguards. After arranging for the bodyguards to come, Gu Yanhao had something to do in the company and had to return to M City. As soon as Gu Yanhao left, Song Jiuyue appeared in the hospital. She was wearing a black dress and a long dress and a fashionable red coat. She looked fashionable and noble and stylish and elegant. She was wearing high heels. Feet was stopped by the 2 female bodyguards at the door. She looked up in surprise and glanced at the ward number to make sure that she was in the right room. Then, she raised her chin slightly and looked at the 2 women at the door. Is Ban Jianing staying inside? The 2 female bodyguards just looked at her coldly and didn't respond. I want to go in. Suddenly, an arm crossed in front of her and stopped her. Young master said that no strangers are allowed to enter without his permission. Is your young master Gu Yanhao or Migu? Song Jiuyue asked coldly. She wasn't a stranger to them, was she? The bodyguard chose to remain silent again. Song Jiuyue insisted on coming in, but the bodyguard stopped her again. Miss, didn't you understand what I said? No strangers are allowed to enter. One of the bodyguards looked at Song Jiuyue coldly, as if she was going to drive her away. I'm not a stranger, what's going on? The door of the ward was opened, and Song Wuyo's cold voice came. Seeing Song Jiuyue, Song Wuyo's eyes became extremely cold. Chapter 384. What are you doing here? She was dressed so conspicuously as if she was attending a beauty pageant. I'm here to look after Jianing. Her tone sounded as if she was very familiar with Ban Jianing. Song Wuyo came out and winked at a bodyguard. The bodyguard understood immediately and entered the ward. Song Wuyo closed the door and curled her lips. She looked at Song Jiuyue without any warmth in her eyes. What's your relationship with Jianing? I don't care. We met at the ranch. I know that he's injured, so I'm here to see him, Song Jiuyue said. I heard that when Jianing was injured, only you and him were in the room. Song Wuyo looked at Song Jiuyue coldly. Song Jiuyue sneered and looked directly at Song Wuyo. What do you mean? Do you suspect that I hurt him? Song Wuyo smiled provocatively. Can't I? Song Wuyo, you're accusing me wrongly. Before the matter is investigated, can't you suspect anyone present? Song, you're not a child of the Song family. You don't deserve to be surnamed Song. Song Jiuyue sneered and looked at Song Wuyo arrogantly. I shouldn't call you Song Wuyo anymore. I should call you a bitch. Slap. When Song Wuyo heard this, he did not hold back. He raised his hand and slapped Song Jiuyue's fair face without hesitation. A crisp sound rang out. Song Jiuyue's face was slapped to one side. The face in front of Song Wuyo and the bodyguard suddenly became red and swollen, and there was a clear mark of a palm on it. It hurt. It was burning. This was the only feeling Song Juyue had. It was as if her face was being cut by a knife. Song Wuyo rubbed her hands. She was incomparably aloof and arrogant. She raised her chin slightly and looked coldly at Song Juyue. I've already told you that whoever says the word cheap in front of me, I'll give them 1 slap. 2 slaps for 2 words. Song Juyue was burning with anger. She suddenly turned her head and looked coldly at Song Wuyo. Song Wuyo chuckled. If you had called my name earlier, you wouldn't have been slapped. Song Juyue was so angry that she wanted to fight back, but when she saw the female bodyguard standing coldly beside Song Wuyo, she could only suppress her anger. Let's wait and see. One day, I'll return this slap. Song Juyue glared fiercely at Song Wuyo. After sorting out her emotions, she said, I want to go in and look after Jining. I won't allow it. These 4 words were filled with coldness. You can look after him. Why don't you allow me to? What's your relationship with Jining? It's friends or lovers. Do you think I'll like a fool? Song Juyue snorted with an arrogant expression. Song Wuyo narrowed her eyes. You seem to look down on fools. It's none of your business. Since you look down on fools, you're so kind as to come here from M City to look after Jining. Song Juyue, are you guilty? Or do you have other purposes? When saying this, Song Wuyo looked straight into Song Juyue's eyes, not missing any of her eyes. Sure enough, when Song Juyue heard this, there was a trace of anxiety in her eyes. She stared at Song Wuyo. Why should I feel guilty? Because I suspect that you hurt Jining. Why would I hurt him for no reason? Song Juyue felt guilty. You have to ask yourself this question. Song Wuyo sneered. Song Juyue, don't be hypocritical. I won't let you step into the ward. Chapter 385. What's your relationship with Jining? Song Juyue stared at Song Wuyo. Why was Song Wuyo so nervous about Ban Jining? With her arrogant personality, why would she sympathize with a fool? Why should I tell you? Song Juyue felt that she had been given the cold shoulder and cursed Song Wuyo in her heart. Song Wuyo turned sideways and said to the bodyguard with a smile, look at her face clearly and recognize her figure. Don't let her come near this ward. The bodyguard nodded. Yes, madam. When Song Juyue heard this, she was so angry that her voice seemed to become coarse. If the bodyguard was not present, she would have torn Song Wuyo apart. How could Song Wuyo not know the anger in her heart? She turned around, gave her a cold and arrogant smile, and walked into the ward. Seeing Song Wuyo's smiling face, Song Juyue was so angry that she wanted to tear her apart. She gritted her teeth and stared at Song Wuyo fiercely. That gaze was even scarier than that of a female ghost. After Song Wuyo went in, the bodyguard inside came out. The 2 of them guarded the door so tightly that Song Juyue could not step in at all. Damn it, how was Ban Jining now? Song Juyue turned around and went to find Ban Jining's attending doctor. When she heard from the doctor that Ban Jining was injured this time, the blood test revealed that he had leukemia in time, and the bone marrow transplant operation was very successful. She was in a bad mood. So, was Ban Jining a blessing in disguise this time? The doctor told her that Ban Jining had a weak blood constitution and his hematopoietic function was weaker than normal. If he waited until his condition worsened and was diagnosed with leukemia, he might not be able to undergo the operation and could only watch him die. Song Juyue came out of the doctor's office with a heavy heart. If Qing Junhua knew that Ban Jining had benefited from a disaster, what would he do? He would definitely not be engaged to her, no. She could not tell Qing Junhua that Ban Jianing had leukemia. She had to pretend that she did not know anything. Oh, then I'll buy a chicken to make soup. Miss, take it easy. If young Master Gu finds out that you're even thinking about designing clothes for the competition in the ward, he'll definitely scold you. Someone was walking over while talking on the phone. The voice sounded very familiar. Song Jiuyue looked up. It was Su Jing. Su Jing suddenly stopped. She picked up the phone between her shoulder and ear and rummaged through her handbag with both hands. Yes, Mississippi. The draft for the competition is with me. I asked Xiao Zhao to dye it and put it in my bag. I forgot to give it to you. Okay, I'll bring it back for you now. After hanging up, Su Jing turned around and hurried back. The entry was in Su Jing's bag. Song Jiuyue suddenly thought of something and hurried to catch up. When they arrived at the elevator, Su Jing was waiting for it. There were quite a lot of people. Su Jing looked around and saw a group of medical staff pushing the hospital beds. There are so many people. I'll take the stairs, Su Jing said. The stairs were at the corner of the passage. Beside the stairs was the washroom. Su Jing did not go directly to the stairs. Instead, she went into the washroom. There were quite a lot of washrooms in the hospital, so there were very few people in the washrooms on each floor. It was very clean. Su Jing put her finger bag on the clean sink and went into the washroom. When she closed the door of the washroom, Song Jiuyue in a red trench coat appeared in front of the sink. She glanced at the door of the washroom that Su Jing was in. Then she quickly took Su Jing's handbag, opened it quickly, and took out the design draft. When she opened the design draft, her eyes lit up. As a designer, she was shocked by the clothes at first sight. Chapter 386. Song Wuyo, this bitch, actually had such a high talent in design. Song Jiuyue's eyes turned cold, and the corners of her mouth curled up into an ambiguous smile. She spread out the design manuscript, took out her phone, and took 3 photos from different angles. After she was done, she quickly put the design manuscript into her bag. When she heard the sound of water coming from the toilet, she quickly went out and left the scene. After entering the elevator, Song Jiuyue stood in the last corner. She opened the photos that she had just taken and looked at them one by one. Such a stunning dress at first glance, if it was made into a finished product, how amazing would it be? After the color of the dress was done, the color of the dress matched beautifully, bright and extraordinary. She really didn't expect Song Wuyo's work to be so stunning. Song Jiuyue smiled. From now on, this work didn't belong to Song Wuyo. Su Jing wanted to buy chicken soup for Song Wuyo. In the hospital lobby, she met Migu. Migu was carrying a soup box, and inside it was the chicken soup. Su Jing had to return to the ward with Migu. Su Jing poured out the chicken soup for Song Wuyo. It was very delicious chicken soup. It was made from the chickens raised on the ranch, and it was delicious. Song Wuyo also fed some to Ban Jianing. Are you used to living in the hospital? Migu and Song Wuyo were on the balcony to get some fresh air. Song Wuyo smiled gently. As long as I can accompany Jianing, everything else doesn't matter. Ah Ho has already told me. Migu looked at Song Wuyo gently. Song Wuyo looked at him. My relationship with Jianing. Migu nodded. Yes. Migu took out a small box from his coat pocket and handed it to Song Wuyo. Song Wuyo was surprised. What is this? For you. A gift? You'll know when you open it. Song Wuyo took the box and opened it. She was shocked. Hairpin. It was a hairpin that looked like it was meant for love. She raised her eyes and looked at Migu in astonishment. I've given this hairpin to Mushin. It already belongs to Mushin. Migu's lips curled into a faint smile. His slender fingers picked up the hairpin and held it in front of Song Wuyo's eyes. Look. Song Wuyo lowered his head to take a look, and his mind buzzed. This. She had always been calm in the face of trouble, but at this moment, she was no longer calm. The hairpin was engraved with the word worry from the Axe dynasty. The word worry was written on it. It was exactly the same as the one Dongfang Xian had given her. Song Wuyo couldn't tell if this was the one she had given to Mushin or the one Dongfang Xian had given her. She had initially thought that the hairpin at the auction was her love from the Axe dynasty in her previous life. After taking a closer look, she realized that there was no word worry on the hairpin. She knew that it was fake. Gu Yanhao had bought it for her. She had never worn it because it wasn't hers. Now, the hairpin that Migu had given her had the word worry engraved on it. It was exactly the same as the one Dongfang Xian had given her. When she looked down at the hairpin in her hand in shock, Migu's eyes were surging with stormy waves. There was a melancholy hidden in them. When Song Wuyo looked up at him, he suddenly smiled gently. I've engraved the word worry on it. Song Wuyo's heart skipped a beat. This hairpin suits you better. It's a waste to give it to Mushin. Song Wuyo tried hard to suppress her unsettled emotions. Her breathing was a little hurried. Mushin will blame you if you take it. Mushin is very afraid of me. She won't dare to blame me. You're using your identity as her brother to suppress her. Migu smiled. Otherwise, how can she be so obedient? Chapter 387. Song Wuyo thought for a while and said, I've already given this hairpin to Mushin. You should take it back and give it to her. Migu raised his eyebrows. This is a gift from Ah Ho. Song Wuyo smiled. He knows that I gave it to Mushin. Migu looked deeply at Song Wuyo. It was passed down from the Axe dynasty. Wuyo, take good care of it. I'll get someone to make an identical one for Mushin. Song Wuyo looked up and looked at Migu with a complicated expression. Why do you have to carve the word worry on it? Migu smiled gently. It originally belonged to you. Song Wuyo's expression became even more complicated when she heard that. Migu's beautiful eyes revealed a smile. I'm going back. Song Wuyo looked at him and nodded. Okay, drive carefully. After Migu left, Song Wuyo held the hairpin and stood on the balcony, deep in thought. She thought about many things. Su Jing came over with fruits. Miss, the fruits are cut. Strange, what was Miss thinking about that made her so fascinated? Su Jing approached and saw Song Wuyo holding a box in one hand and a hairpin in the other. She was lost in thought. Su Jing blinked. Miss, didn't you give this hairpin to Mushin? Miss? Su Jing gently pushed Song Wuyo. Song Wuyo came back to her senses and looked at Su Jing in confusion. Su Jing smiled brightly. Miss, what are you thinking about? Nothing. Song Wuyo certainly wouldn't tell Su Jing what she was thinking. Su Jing glanced at the hairpin in her hand and asked curiously, Miss, didn't you give this hairpin to Mushin? Song Wuyo chuckled. Migu said it was too precious. Moreover, it was a gift from Gu Yanhao. He asked me to keep it safe. Su Jing pursed her lips and said, That's right. This is the first time young Master Gu gave you a piece of jewelry, and he spent so much money to buy it for you. It's inappropriate for you to give it to Mushin. Have you ever thought about Master Gu's feelings? Isn't it back in my hands now? Song Wuyo smiled. The fruits are ready. Su Jing put the fruit plate on the guardrail and said happily, "Miss, eat the fruit. I'll help you put the hairpin away." Okay. Song Wuyo put the hairpin into a box and gave it to Su Jing. Su Jing happily took the box back to the ward and put it in Song Wuyo's bag. "I'm Mrs. Gu's bodyguard. Let me in." Su Jing put Song Wuyo's bag back in its original position. Suddenly, she heard a noise outside. Su Jing looked back at Song Wuyo. Song Wuyo nodded at her. Su Jing understood. She got up and went to open the door. Lu Jiming. Su Jing was surprised to see Lu Jiming. "What are you doing here?" Lu Jiming looked at Su Jing. "I'm here to protect Mrs. Gu. Let him in." Song Wuyo's indifferent voice came out. The two female bodyguards at the door looked at Lu Jiming strangely and then let him in. As soon as Lu Jiming came in, he said to Song Wuyo, "Mrs. Gu, I heard that you had a car accident some time ago. I suspect it was murder." Song Wuyo looked at Lu Jiming with a smile. "And? Lu Jiming, I'm here to protect you. I'm good at driving. I'll be your driver in the future." Song Wuyo smiled gently. If Gu Yanhao heard you, he would be angry. Chapter 388. Isn't young Master Gu very busy every day? He can't stay by your side to protect you all the time. You saved my life, so I'm loyal to you for the rest of my life. Before I came, I asked young Master Gu, and he told me to do my job well. Oh. Song Wuyo's expression was a little rich. When did Gu Yanhao become so magnanimous? Lu Jiming glanced at Ban Jianing, who was sleeping on the bed, and said, "The two bodyguards at the door are women, and you and Su Jing are women. As a man, I can help Jianing bathe and wipe his body." When Song Wuyo heard this, the corners of her eyes twitched inadvertently. Gu Yanhao must have agreed to let Lu Jiming come over because of this, right? Until now, Ban Jianing had refused to let the nurse wipe his body. The moment the nurse approached, he would throw a tantrum. So, she was the one who wiped his body. When Gu Yanhao saw her helping Ban Jianing wipe his body, he didn't say anything, but his expression was a little dark. He even took the initiative to help Ban Jianing wipe his body, but Ban Jianing seemed to be deliberately against him and didn't let him. Song Wuyo smiled. She had thought that Gu Yanhao had become magnanimous, but in reality, he had become even more narrow-minded. Song Wuyo looked at Lu Jiming in amusement. "It's been hard on you." She just didn't know if Ban Jianing would rather let Lu Jiming help him bathe. Lu Jiming scratched his head and said embarrassedly, "How is this considered hard work?" At night, Ban Jianing woke up. He had slept for a long time, so he was in good spirits. Lu Jiming helped him out of bed and moved around. Perhaps it was because his body was in too much pain. After moving for a while, Ban Jianing's back was drenched in sweat. He had been wiping his body for the past few days and hadn't bathed. As soon as he sweated, a strong smell assailed his nose. "Rest for a while. I'll help you bathe later," Lu Jiming said as he sat Ban Jianing on the bed. "Sister, I'm so hot." Ban Jianing tugged at the patient's clothes. Song Wuyo and Su Jing sat at the side and watched as Lu Jiming helped Ban Jianing move. They felt that the scene was very harmonious. "You can't use an air conditioner that's too cold," Song Wuyo said. "Come, I'll help you wipe your sweat." Lu Jiming took a dry towel and pulled Ban Jianing's clothes up to wipe his sweat. Ban Jianing's body was very pale. Perhaps it was because he had been locked up for a long time and rarely saw the sun. In addition, he had undergone surgery, so his whiteness was very abnormal. Seeing his weak body, Song Wuyo's heart ached. As for Ban Jianing, other than his face, he was very different from Song Jiaxi. Song Jiaxi was sunny and strong, with a tall and sturdy physique, resolute and healthy. Jianing, let Brother Jiming help you bathe, okay? Song Wuyo asked gently. Okay, I'll take a bath now. It's so hot. Ban Jianing nodded and said obediently. Song Wuyo smiled and asked, why are you willing to let Jiming help you wipe your body and not let brother-in-law help you wipe your body? Ban Jianing blinked and looked at Song Wuyo. Every time he wants to help me wipe my body, you're there. What does it have to do with me? You're here. Of course, I want you to wipe me. I'm here now too. Why don't you let me wipe you? Brother-in-law isn't here. Ah. Song Wuyo was dumbfounded. Ban Jianing smiled. Sister is so stupid. Don't you know that I like to see brother-in-law's gloomy look? When Song Wuyo heard this, she suddenly understood. So, you're deliberately provoking your brother-in-law? Yes. Ban Jianing obediently admitted. Why do you want to provoke your brother-in-law? Don't you like him very much? Song Wuyo asked, puzzled. Ban Jianing smiled foolishly. I like to see him unhappy more. Chapter 389. You little guy. Song Wuyo looked at Ban Jianing lovingly. At the same time, she sighed in her heart. If Ban Jianing hadn't been scared silly and his intelligence hadn't stopped at 5 years old. He must be a very smart young man. Even someone as silly as him knew how to use this method to mess with Gu Yanhao. If he wasn't mentally challenged, he must be a thoughtful person. After Lu Jiming took Ban Jianing to shower, Song Wuyo and Gu Yanhao video chatted on WeChat. It was a voice video message from Gu Yanhao. Song Wuyo came to the balcony and smiled at the handsome man in the video. Are you happy? Gu Yanhao sat lazily on the soft chair in the office. His perfect lips were slightly raised. Of course I'm happy to video chat with you. Song Wuyo was full of smiles. Really? Gu Yanhao shook his head arrogantly. His fringe on his forehead was elegant and handsome. He looked very sunny. It was a far cry from his usual cold and ruthless self. Am I very handsome? Yes, so handsome that no one has friends. Song Wuyo joked. What did you have for lunch? Gu Yanhao asked. Chicken soup and Su Jing's delicious pork rib rice. Migu sent the chicken soup over, right? Song Wuyo nodded. Yes, you are indeed friends. Sigh, honey, I miss you so much. As he spoke, the man in the video pouted his lips at the camera. His thin lips were sexy and charming. Give me a kiss. Looking at the way he pouted, Song Wuyo couldn't help but chuckle. Ah ho, you are so feminine. You look like Eunuch Zhang. Who is Eunuch Zhang? Gu Yanhao retracted his mouth and asked seriously. Eunuch Zhang. Song Wuyo blurted out. Eunuch Zhang was the eunuch by Dongfang Xian's side. Eunuch. Song Wuyo smiled. As soon as Gu Yanhao heard this, his expression darkened. He glared at Song Wuyo through the internet and said, Song Wuyo, are you saying that I look like a eunuch? For the first time, Song Wuyo felt that Gu Yanhao's uncertain expression was so cute. She smiled and said, not anymore. Humph. Gu Yanhao coldly snorted, is there a handsome and rich eunuch like me? No. You seem to be in a good mood, Gu Yanhao said darkly. When he was by her side, why didn't he see her so happy and smile so often? Do you want me to be in a bad mood? Song Wuyo asked. What do you think? Gu Yanhao coldly said, I've already asked Ade to find a sanatorium. I'll pick you guys up the day after tomorrow. Well, Jianing is in good spirits today. Now, he asked Jiming to help him take a bath. When Gu Yanhao heard this, he frowned. He's willing to let Lu Jiming help him take a bath. He's willing. If he's not willing, didn't I help him take a bath? That guy, when Lu Jiming isn't here, why didn't he let me help him take a bath and wipe his body? Maybe you're his brother-in-law, so he's embarrassed. You're his sister, so he's embarrassed. Song Wuyo thought that Ban Jianing was deliberately provoking Gu Yanhao and couldn't help but laugh. At this time, Ban Jianing came out of the bathroom in a clean hospital gown. Lu Jiming helped him out and then wiped his hair with a dry towel. Song Wuyo glanced inside and said to Gu Yanhao, "I'm not talking to you. I still want to see you more. You're at work now, right? Go to work and don't be lazy." After saying this, Song Wuyo directly disconnected. This woman. Gu Yanhao put the phone on the table and murmured, "She dares to say that I look like a eunuch." Chapter 390. Gu Yanhao leaned his face closer to the computer screen. The computer was on and there were several finished jewelry designs on the screen. He raised his eyebrows in disdain, opened the drawer and rummaged through it. However, there were only important documents in the drawer. He couldn't find what he was looking for. He had no choice but to dial the internal line. When the other party picked up, he said coldly, "Bring me a mirror." Soon, Secretary Zhang pushed the door open and came in with the small mirror that she usually used. "President, I only have this mirror." Secretary Zhang placed the mirror on the table. It was a palm-sized mirror. The edges of the mirror were decorated with glittering crystals. On the surface of the mirror, there was a picture of a popular celebrity. It was a very exquisite mirror. Yes. In front of others, Gu Yanhao always looked cold and arrogant. Secretary Zhang was puzzled. Why would a man like the president suddenly want a mirror? Secretary Zhang took a closer look at Gu Yanhao. He was as arrogant and handsome as usual. The president was very handsome. Could it be that he wanted a mirror to look at his handsome face? Secretary Zhang thought for a while. The regular meeting later was for the senior management of the company to discuss which jewelry to attack the French market. There weren't any beautiful young ladies. Why did the president suddenly care so much about his image? Gu Yanhao took the mirror and saw that Secretary Zhang was still standing there. He looked at her coldly. "What's the matter?" Secretary Zhang shook her head. "Nothing." She turned to leave. When she closed the door, she saw the president looking at the mirror and shaking his head left and right. He seemed to be looking at himself in the mirror. His expression seemed very narcissistic. The corner of Secretary Zhang's eyes twitched. Why was the president acting so strange? "Stupid girl, how dare you say that I look like a eunuch? I'm obviously very masculine. Which part of me looks like a eunuch?" Gu Yanhao looked at himself in the mirror and muttered to himself. Song Jiuyue was doing some makeup in front of the computer. On the computer screen was a fashionable dress with a retro style. It was very beautiful and stunning. A colleague sitting next to her picked up her cup and was about to go to the pantry to make coffee. When she accidentally caught a glimpse of Song Jiuyue's computer, she was shocked. "Wow, this dress is so beautiful." She walked over and stood behind Song Jiuyue. She asked loudly, "Did you design this dress?" Song Jiuyue's lips curled into a smile. "Yes, but I think the color combination is not perfect enough. Top designer E is a top designer. His design style is completely different. I've never seen such a unique and stunning dress on the market. Is this dress prettier, or is it the dress that won the championship in the fashion competition held in our city last time?" Song Jiuyue raised her head and looked at the female colleague behind her. In order to win her over, she said, I have a lot of dresses that I personally designed in my cloakroom. Xiaolon, you have such a good figure, how about I give them to you to wear? Really? When Xiaolon heard this, she was very happy. This dress is beautiful. Although that dress is also beautiful, it's not as good as this one. Their conversation quickly attracted the attention of other colleagues in the design department. When they saw this dress, they were very shocked. Song Jiuyue could design such a unique dress. And Changgong walked in and saw a group of people around Song Jiuyue. When he came over, the colleagues saw him and quickly made way for him. President, look, Song Jiuyue's dress is amazing. Chapter 391. That's right. Quick, look. Jiuyue said that she wants to take it to the international fashion competition in France. I think that even if this design doesn't win the competition in our country, it will at least be the runner-up. Song Jiuyue was very proud of herself after receiving so many praises and flattering gazes. However, she revealed an embarrassed smile on her face. Now that you've said that, I'm feeling proud. I don't even know how to match colors better. And Changgong walked over. His deep and narrow eyes were locked on the design on the computer screen. When he saw the design, his deep eyes flashed with amazement. He carefully observed the collar, the waist, and the hem of the skirt. Did you design it? And Changgong's low and pleasant voice rang out at a moderate pace. Yes. Song Jiuyue nodded. I designed this over the past week. And Changgong smiled. It's very beautiful. It's very eye-catching. He didn't know why, but when he saw this dress, he thought of Song Wuyo's appearance when she made clothes in front of him. Although this dress was very different from that dress, the retro charm seemed to be somewhat connected. After I finish the dye, I will submit it to the competition. Song Jiuyue smiled. I hope that you can win the competition in our country. And Changgong smiled. Thank you, young master, and Song Jiuyue was modest and polite. After An Changgong left, the women in the design department were all stunned when they saw An Changgong smile. Does the CEO like you? The CEO smiled. This is the first time I've seen the CEO smile. Jiuyue, the CEO smiled at you. Does that mean that he likes you? Are you going to become the CEO's wife? Listening to their questions, Song Jiuyue wisely chose to remain silent. Her lips curled into a smug smile. She didn't care about being the wife of the president of Ame Group. She wanted to be the young madam of the Qing family. She wanted to be the first lady in the future. After this stunning dress was exposed in the design department, Song Jiuyue became the idol of the department. Moreover, she knew how to be a good person. She gave some of the branded bags that she did not want and the clothes that she had never worn before to her colleagues. In addition, the Song Jiuyue had been revived recently, and the stock price had risen. Everyone in the design department had a completely different view of Song Jiuyue. Song Jiuyue enjoyed the joy of being praised and admired. When it was almost time to get off work, Song Jiuyue received a call from Qing Junhua. When she found out that Qing Junhua was waiting for her downstairs, she was shocked and hurried downstairs. There was a Land Rover parked in front of the company. Song Jiuyue rushed over and got into the front passenger seat. While fastening her seatbelt, she asked, "Are you taking me to dinner?" Qing Junhua, who was dressed in military uniform, looked very cold and sharp.
Return to the Cheng residence. Qing Junhua coldly said. Song Jiuyue was stunned. Introduce me to your family. Qing Junhua was expressionless. You're about to get engaged. Shouldn't you meet the parents? Song Jiuyue looked at him deeply. Ban Jianing is not dead yet. Cheng Junhua started the car and easily took control of the steering wheel. He will die sooner or later. His cold voice was like that of the king of hell. Gu Yanhao must be suspicious and hired bodyguards, Song Jiuyue said angrily. I don't even have a chance to get close to Ban Jianing. Don't worry about Ban Jianing for the time being. I have other plans. Cheng Junhua glanced at Song Jiuyue's stomach and said coldly, you just need to take care of the baby.
Chapter 392. Cheng Junhua did not like Song Jiuyue. A man like him who only cared about his future would not give his true feelings to any woman. However, he valued his children very much. The president had told him that as the head of the country, having children was very important. He hoped that Song Jiuyue's child would be a son. Song Jiuyue lowered her head and looked at her flat stomach. When Cheng Junhua looked at it, her eyes flashed with a hint of guilt. Her small hand gently caressed her stomach. I will take good care of the baby. About 40 minutes later, they returned to the Cheng residence. In advance, Cheng Junhua said that he would come back for dinner. Madame Ji was very happy and asked the kitchen to prepare a lot of sumptuous dishes. Cheng Jianping and Cheng Junhua happened to be at home today. Dinner was ready. When Cheng Junhua came back, they could start eating. Madame Ji who was waiting anxiously in the living room, saw Cheng Junhua come back with Song Jiuyue. A trace of surprise flashed past her eyes. Song Jiuyue was very good at handling people. Her voice was sweet and gentle as she greeted Cheng Jianping first, then Madame Ji and then Cheng Junhua. Cheng Jianping was reading the military newspaper. When Song Jiuyue greeted him, he only raised his eyes and glanced at her with his sharp eyes. He faintly grunted, then put down the newspaper and walked into the dining room. Time to eat, Junhua. Mom specially asked the kitchen to prepare a lot of your favorite dishes. Madame Ji smiled at Cheng Junhua and then looked at Song Jiuyue elegantly. Miss Song, come in and eat with us. Madam. Song Jiuyue had a smile on her face. She smiled cutely. But she couldn't help but curse in her heart. She was already here. Shouldn't they eat together? The sensitive Song Jiuyue felt that the way Madame Ji looked at her was very different from before. In the dining room. They were eating. Cheng Jianping, who was sitting on the main seat, suddenly raised his head and looked at Cheng Junhua. Junhua, why didn't you agree to the marriage partner that the president chose for you? When Song Jiuyue heard this, her heart skipped a beat. The president actually personally chose a wife for Cheng Junhua? I came back today to tell you that I'm going to be engaged to Song Jiuyue. Cheng Junhua glanced at Cheng Jianping and said indifferently. When Madame Jier heard this, her eyes flashed with surprise. Junhua, have you thought it through? After saying that, Madame Jier realized that she shouldn't have said such words in front of Song Jiuyue. She looked at Song Jiuyue apologetically. Miss Song, I didn't mean anything else. Song Jiuyue smiled gracefully and said, it's fine. This is too sudden. It's normal for you to be surprised. Only the heavens knew that Song Jiuyue was very angry with Madame Jier's reaction. She just didn't want her to be her daughter-in-law. Lady Jill smiled, and tried very hard to be dignified.
Cheng Junhua pursed his lips and glanced at Song Jiuyue ambiguously. Then, he ate silently. Cheng Junhua ignored Madame Jier's words and looked at Cheng Jianping. I've already explained the situation to the president. He agreed to let me marry Song Jiuyue. Also, Jiuyue is pregnant. It's my flesh and blood. Madame Jier was shocked. When Cheng Jianping heard this, his sharp eyes lit up. Really? Cheng Junhua, yes, it's been almost 2 months. Young master, isn't it too late to go to the ranch at this time? Ade drove out of the Gu clan building. What do you mean by late? Gu Yanhao, who was sitting in the back seat, asked coldly. You've been to the jewelry factory for the whole morning and had a discussion for the whole afternoon. Why don't you go back and rest and go again tomorrow? Ade said. Chapter 393. What's the difference between resting in the car and resting in bed? Gu Yanhao's voice became colder and colder. But you don't eat dinner. It was already 8:00. Let's go to Kangji Noodle Restaurant for a bowl of ramen. Eating ramen was the most time efficient. He hadn't seen Song Wuyo for 2 days, and he missed her so much that he was going crazy. He couldn't wait to appear in front of her and hug her to rest. So what if they went back to the villa? These 2 nights, without her by his side, he couldn't sleep at all. It was 8:00 now. After eating a bowl of ramen, they would arrive at the hospital around 12:00 at most. He could sleep in the same bed as her for the rest of the night. Ade drove the new Bugatti. It was luxurious and low-key. When a luxury car stopped in front of the noodle restaurant, and 2 handsome men appeared, everyone in the noodle restaurant was stunned. The lady boss, in particular, stopped what she was doing at this moment. She looked at the 2 men who walked in shock. The one in front was cold and noble, and somewhat familiar, but she couldn't remember where she had seen him before. The one in the back was cold and austere. 2 ramen. The man in the back spoke. His voice was like the sound of nature, extremely pleasant to the ears. He was dressed in a suit and leather shoes, and was incomparably noble and handsome. At first glance, one could tell that he was a noble and a person of high status. Why did he come to eat ramen? The lady boss didn't come back to her senses for a long time. 2 ramen, quick. Ade knocked on the lid of the pot in front of the lady boss. Okay. The lady boss suddenly came back to her senses as if someone had opened her acupoints, and kept saying okay. This was a well-decorated noodle restaurant, but it was still far from a star hotel. This was a common noodle restaurant. The boss quickly served them 2 bowls of ramen. There were always people who loved beauty, and they were biased. Seeing that the 2 men were so handsome, the lady boss deliberately added a lot of ingredients to their ramen. Eggs, lean meat, vegetables, more than other customers. Gu Yanhao elegantly picked up his chopsticks and ate. The way he ate was full of nobility. The customers and waiters in the restaurant were stunned. So handsome, so handsome. Driving a Bugatti, exuding a noble aura, but coming to such a common noodle restaurant to eat. Those single women were crazy about these 2 men. About 10 minutes later, Gu Yanhao and Ade finished their bowls of ramen. Ade asked the waiter to pay the bill. A waiter wearing the noodle shop's logo stepped forward and stared at Gu Yanhao. You are Song Wuyo's husband, young Master Gu. The waiter suddenly exclaimed. Song Wuyo's husband. Gu Yanhao raised his eyebrows slightly. This label was not bad. Song Wuyo's husband. Gu Yanhao slowly raised his head and looked at the waiter. You know Song Wuyo? The waiter nodded. Yes. Everyone said that she was arrogant and useless, but she had turned into a fashion designer in an instant. We're talking about her in private. Gu Yanhao asked with interest, what are you talking about? I think she's very inspirational. She dares to love and hate. She doesn't care about other people's opinions and is determined to pursue the man she loves. She suddenly changed. I think she must be working hard and learning behind the scenes. I admire her very much. Yes. Gu Yanhao glanced at Ade and said, I'll ask her to give you an autographed photo another day. Really? The waiter was very happy. Beauty, take the money. Aude took out a few $100 bills and put them on the table. The waiter saw it and quickly said, "It's only 48 bowls of ramen. You don't have to pay so much. My young master is happy. This is a reward for you. Do a good job." The waiter looked at them in a daze. They were so cool, especially Song Woo's husband. The lady boss walked over with a soup spoon. "What's the situation?" "Sister-in-law, that handsome man is young Master Gu." The waiter smiled. "I'm asking, why is he giving you so much money?" The waiter took the money and smiled. "He said it's a reward for me. It's enough for this month's living expenses. You and Big Brother don't have to give me any living expenses." The lady boss laughed. "Ha, such generous customers. I really hope they come to eat every day." Chapter 394. In the car, Gu Yanhao's lips were curled into a faint smile. Even Aude, who was driving, could feel that something was wrong. He had been by Gu Yanhao's side for so long, and it was rare to see Gu Yanhao smiling so flirtatiously in the car. Aude asked, "Young master, is the ramen delicious?" So that was why he was smiling until now. Gu Yanhao curled his lips into a mischievous smile. Song Woo's husband. This label is not bad. Aude, was this label very honorable? Why did he feel like he was living off a woman? Song Woo's husband, I'm Song Woo's husband. Gu Yanhao was in a good mood. When Aude heard this, he felt that Gu Yanhao was a fool. Aude glanced at him cautiously. Was he infected by Ban Jianning's foolishness? Song Woo's husband. Aude, you can call me that in the future, Song Woo's husband. Young master, you might as well kill me. After that, Aude put on his Bluetooth earpiece. Gu Yanhao looked at him. What are you doing? Aude, listening to music so that I can concentrate on driving. In the wee hours of the morning, the hospital became especially quiet. Especially in the VIP ward, the whole corridor was so quiet that even a pin drop could be heard. A nurse wearing a white coat and a disposable light blue mask came to Ban Jianning's ward. The bodyguard on duty stopped her. The nurse smiled. "I'm here to check the ward." The bodyguard said, "Everyone inside is asleep. There's no need to check the ward." The nurse said, "This is my job. The higher-ups want to see the report." After that, the nurse took out a pen from the pocket in front of her chest and wrote in the notebook in her hand. "Since you don't let me in, I'll just write it down casually." The nurse scribbled a lot on the notebook, and a fragrance suddenly filled the air. When the two bodyguards on duty smelled the fragrance, they were shocked. Not good. Just as they were about to react, their heads suddenly swelled and their vision turned black. Their bodies went limp and they fell to the ground. When the nurses saw this, they fanned the book in front of their noses a few times, and their exposed eyes shone with pride and success. The super-strong ecstasy incense mixed with the ink could emit such a clear scent. The effect was really good. After knocking out the bodyguard, the nurse gently pushed the door open and entered. On the bed outside, Ban Jianning, who was wearing a hospital gown, was lying on his side. His back was facing the door as he fell asleep. On the soft sofa next to him, Su Jing was hugging a pillow and sleeping. The nurse walked towards the ward with light steps. Her dark eyes became very sharp. She tightly gripped the pen in her hand. At this moment, the tip of the pen became extremely sharp, becoming a terrifying weapon. That sharp gaze was fixed on Ban Jianning's neck. When she stood by the bed, she raised her hand and the tip of the pen pierced towards the spot that she was staring at. That was a human artery. If it pierced through, he would definitely die. Seeing that she was about to succeed, the person on the bed turned over and kicked the nurse's arm. The nurse leaned towards the bedside table. Damn it, she fell into a trap. The nurse suddenly turned around and stared at the man who jumped up to attack her with a murderous gaze. You're courting death. The nurse cursed and started fighting with the man who attacked her. Su Jing, who was sleeping, was shocked awake. When she saw Lu Jiming fighting fiercely with the nurse, she was so scared that she lay behind the sofa. Cough, cough, Lu Jiming was punched in the chest. He staggered and bumped into another sofa. The pain in his chest made him cough twice. Before he could recover, a sudden gust of wind hit him in the face. Her back trembled, and all of her aura was suddenly extinguished. Why did Gu Yanhao suddenly come? Did he see everything? Song Wuyo's expression changed. She turned around slowly. That gaze was like someone who had been caught red-handed doing something wrong. She was caught off guard and didn't know how to explain. Gu Yanhao's gaze was deep and his muscles were tense. He strode over and looked at her with a burning gaze. Do you know how many floors we are on? The 33rd floor. When Su Jing and Lu Jiming heard that, they snapped back to reality. Was that nurse smashed to death? Lu Jiming wanted to check out the situation downstairs. However, when he saw Gu Yanhao exuding a frightening coldness, he shrunk his neck and didn't dare to act rashly. Song Wuyo turned around and looked behind her. She then looked at Gu Yanhao. He was really angry. Chapter 396. Gu Yanhao walked over with his long legs. He held the railing with both hands and looked down. Although it was early in the morning, the lights in the hospital were still bright. Downstairs, it was quiet as usual. The nurse was nowhere to be found. It seemed that the other party was an expert. When she jumped down, she hid in a corner. Gu Yanhao did not care whether the other party was dead or alive. His mood was like a raging wave, rolling non-stop. His gaze was deep and sharp. His hands were holding the railing tightly. The muscles on his face were tense and his lips were pursed tightly. It was obvious that he was enduring something. If he did not call her in time, would she have jumped down from here? Would she have been crushed to death? Who was she? How could her skills be better than his? She could fly easily, just like those heroines who knew Qigong in ancient dramas. However, what he was watching just now was not ancient dramas. The woman who jumped down from here did not die. She must have undergone rigorous training. Simply put, the other party was a professional assassin. What about Song Wuyo? When they met, she was 13 years old. At that time, she did not know any martial arts at all. Song Wuyo, who was standing beside him, could clearly feel his suppression and oppression. She pursed her lips and looked at him. Why are you here? Shouldn't you be here in the morning? Gu Yanhao turned his head. His deep eyes revealed an emotion that Song Wuyo could not understand. I missed you, so I came early. His deep voice was magnetic and sexy. It was no different from usual. But Song Wuyo could tell that he was suppressing something. Are you okay? Gu Yanhao looked at her and his tone suddenly softened. Song Wuyo shook her head. I'm fine. It was just that her arms were sore. When she saw that the other party wanted to kill Lu Jiming and thought of how the other party forced Ban Jianing to his death, she hated him. Once her hatred surged, at the critical moment, she was able to attack her opponent like a primordial force erupting from her body. During this period of time, she had been training her body, so her weak body had become much stronger. However, this was the first time she had fought, and the other party had tried to take her life with every move. When her arm collided with the other party's, there was a very obvious pain. Song Woo-yo pursed her lips. At the end of the day, this body was still a little weak and needed more training. Gu Yenhao looked at her deeply for a moment, then walked around her and walked in. His posture was as straight as an emperor's, causing Lu Jiming to tremble slightly. Song Woo-yo frowned slightly. Looking at his straight back, he seemed very unhappy. Cough, cough. Lu Jiming coughed again because of the pain in his chest. Song Woo-yo walked in and looked at Lu Jiming. Look for the doctor on duty. He might have internal injuries. Mrs. Gu, you are my goddess. Lu Jiming risked his life to praise Song Woo-yo in front of Gu Yenhao. After that, he coughed again. Song Woo-yo frowns. Please see the doctor first. Okay. Lu Jiming nodded, then looked at Su Jing beside him. Little mouse, help me to the doctor on duty to check if I have internal injuries. Little mouse. Su Jing was stunned. Are you talking to me? A cowardly little mouse. I'm talking about you. When Su Jing heard that, her face darkened. She was about to scold him, but she felt that the atmosphere was not right. She glared at Lu Jiming fiercely and helped him out of the ward. After they walked out of the ward, the two of them started to argue. Lu Jiming and Su Jing left, and Ade also left. Ban Jianing was sleeping soundly in the small room in the inner room. The fight outside did not wake him up. The ward suddenly quieted down. Gu Yenhao glanced at the messy scene and took a deep breath. Then, he turned around and looked at Song Woo-yo with a complicated expression. Chapter 397. Song Woo-yo knew that she could not pretend to be dead anymore. She held Gu Yenhao's hand and looked at Gu Yenhao. Ah ho, do you have something to ask me? Her clear eyes were especially bright under the light. She was totally different from the woman who had a murderous aura earlier on. Gu Yenhao raised his eyebrows slightly and snorted. Didn't you have something to tell me? Song Woo-yo said softly. Did you see everything just now? Gu Yenhao's eyes were deep. Yes, I saw everything from the beginning to the end. Why didn't you make a move and catch that fake nurse with me? Didn't you have a lot of fun fighting? Gu Yenhao said coldly. I always thought that my wife is a gentle woman. Suddenly, you are more skillful than me. My friends and I were stunned. How could we make a move? Friends? Ade. Indeed, they were stunned. Gu Yenhao suddenly hugged her waist and frowned. Suddenly, he smirked evilly. Wifey, you're so fierce in the fight, but why are you so weak in bed? Song Woo-yo felt awkward and embarrassed when she heard that. She was thinking about how to explain everything to him. How was she going to open her mouth when he suddenly acted this way? Who taught you martial arts? Gu Yenhao narrowed his eyes and looked at her with a smile. He lowered his head slightly and looked into her eyes. At that time, sister, brother-in-law, are you guys playing shyness? Ban Jianing's voice suddenly interrupted Song Woo-yo. Song Woo-yo turned her head and saw Ban Jianing standing at the door of the room in a loose hospital gown. He was looking at them expectantly. Seeing his relaxed expression, Song Woo-yo heaved a sigh of relief. The trembling just now did not wake him up. Now that he had woken up, he naturally woke up. Jianing, you're awake? Song Woo-yo asked. In a daze, I heard some noise and slowly woke up. Sister, have you done anything shameful? Looking at the messy scene, Ban Jianing muttered, brother-in-law is truly formidable. He even flipped the sofa. Jianing, you child. Song Woo-yo blushed. She wanted to explain, but Gu Yenhao's hand around her waist suddenly tightened. The man smiled wickedly and looked at Ban Jianing. I haven't had enough yet, and you've come out to disturb us. Jianing, do you think I should continue to mess with your sister? Ban Jianing scratched his head. But I can't sleep. Let's go in and play games. If Mu Axian doesn't sit beside me, I won't be in the mood to fight. Why don't you sit beside me? Gu Yanhao raised his eyebrows. If I sit next to you, how can I do shameful things with your sister? Gu Yanhao, don't talk nonsense in front of Jianing. Song Wuyo lifted her foot and stepped on Gu Yanhao's foot. Gu Yanhao looked at her dotingly. I'm telling the truth. He's here. How can we be shameful? He's not here. We can't be shameful. Song Wuyo pushed Gu Yanhao away, moved the sofa, and said to Ban Jianing, Jianing, the sofa was not flipped by your brother-in-law. It was knocked over by Jiming and Ade. Gu Yanhao came over and pulled her aside. I'll do this kind of heavy work. Also, don't lie in front of the child. Song Wuyo looked at him in amusement. Did you lie first? He even told those dirty lies. Song Wuyo looked at Gu Yanhao, who had flipped the sofa, and asked, Aho, shouldn't we arrest the fake nurse? Gu Yanhao coldly curled his lips. The other party came prepared. With their previous style of doing things, the hospital surveillance cameras were destroyed in advance. Chapter 398. Song Wuyo glanced at the dumbfounded Ban Jianing. He was like a studious child, looking at them with sparkling eyes. Fearing that he would be scared if he heard too much, Song Wuyo stopped talking. She walked over, took Ban Jianing's hand, and said gently, Jianing, are you hungry? Ban Jianing looked at her, his eyes as innocent as a child's. Sister, I want to eat pears. Song Wuyo smiled kindly. Okay, I'll peel it for you. Go back to your room and sit down. Ban Jianing was very obedient and sat back on the bed. Song Wuyo took a pear and sat beside his bed. She peeled it while talking to Ban Jianing. Song Wuyo said, Jianing, brother-in-law is here to take you back to M City. Ban Jianing asked doubtfully, back to your home? Song Wuyo nodded. Yes. But I don't want to go back to your home. Song Wuyo looked at him in surprise. Why? Ban Jianing muttered, I want to be with Muxin. Song Wuyo smiled helplessly. Muxin has to go to class and can't accompany you every day. And he wanted to date her. I don't care. In short, I want to stay with Muxin. But I can't stay with you at Muxin's home. It's enough to have Muxin with me. I don't want you to accompany me. You go with brother-in-law. Ban Jianing didn't feel reluctant to part with Song Wuyo. Song Wuyo pursed her lips. Was Ban Jianing valuing women over his sister? At first, he called her sister Muxin, but now he didn't want to call her sister Muxin. Sigh, the relationship between two people, fate is truly miraculous. Even if people drank Meng Po's soup after death and lost all memories of their previous lives, they would still like each other and have wonderful feelings for each other when they met in this life. Just like Ban Jianing, he was a little fool who was afraid of people. But after seeing Muxin, he didn't want her as his sister. Song Wuyo handed the peeled pear to Ban Jianing. Finish it. Okay. Ban Jianing took the pear and ate it bit by bit. Song Wuyo got up and went to the window. She leaned out slightly and looked down. The 33rd floor was so high. She slowly looked around, but she didn't find anything out of the ordinary. Song Wuyo tried to break the anti-theft net with both hands. It was very sturdy. She closed the window and drew the curtains. Her beautiful eyes gradually became incomparably cold. Qing Junhua. Was that fake nurse sent by Qing Junhua? The car accident and the 2 knife wounds on Ban Jianning's body were all caused by Qing Junhua. Did Qing Junhua really have to kill her brother? Song Wuyo gritted her teeth. She couldn't sit back and do nothing. Turning around, Song Wuyo looked at Ban Jianning. He ate the pear bite by bite with relish. He looked like a noble little boy. His skin was white and he was handsome. Even if he was an adult, he would only be a child of a few years. Qing Junhua and Qing Jianxin were so cruel that they didn't even let a child go. Jianning, the doctor said that you can't be exposed to the wind. Don't open the window, okay? Song Wuyo removed the coldness in her eyes and looked at Ban Jianning amiably. Ban Jianning nodded. Okay, I don't like to open the window. Go to sleep after eating the pear. I'll ask Jiming to accompany you. Ban Jianning nodded sensibly. Okay, Jiming will accompany me. Sister, go and accompany brother-in-law. Song Wuyo walked over and touched Ban Jianning's head. Jianning is getting more and more sensible. When Song Wuyo came out, Aude seemed to be reporting something to Gu Yanhao. After Aude went out, Gu Yanhao turned around and looked at Song Wuyo meaningfully. Chapter 399. Did you find anything? Song Wuyo poured a glass of water and handed it to Gu Yanhao. Gu Yanhao took it and sat elegantly on the sofa. He looked at her meaningfully and said, "No, the other party is really a master. They destroyed all the surveillance cameras around the hospital and inside and outside the hospital. There are countless people coming in and out of the hospital every day, so we can't find any clues at all. Moreover, the other party knew that we were going to investigate, so they were prepared to block our forces and obstruct our line of sight. In fact, there were some things that he was hiding from her." Song Wuyo snorted. Who else could it be other than the Qing family? Gu Yanhao said, "We don't have enough evidence, so we shouldn't act rashly. Qing Junhua is a cruel and merciless person. He has a group of loyal people under him. Even if there is a trace of evidence, some people will be willing to help him be the scapegoat. Besides, we don't have enough evidence. Maybe it was someone else who killed the Ban family back then." Song Wuyo disagreed. "It can't be someone else. It's the Qing family." Her intuition told her that it was the Qing family. Gu Yanhao looked at her deeply. "Wuyo, I'll take care of the investigation. During this time, you just need to protect yourself." Song Wuyo didn't want to burden him, so she nodded. "Okay, you don't have to worry about me." Gu Yanhao looked at her. "Do you want me to ask you before you're willing to tell me the truth?" Song Wuyo looked at him in the eye. "No, I wanted to say it just now, but Jianning suddenly interrupted me." "Now say it." Song Wuyo chuckled weakly. "If I tell you, you'll think it's ridiculous. You'll even think that I'm lying." Gu Yanhao raised his eyebrows slightly when he heard this. Was it what he thought? She wasn't Song Wuyo in the past, but when his wife Song Wuyo was in a car accident, she took advantage of the situation and took over the identity of Mrs. Gu. "Tell me, I've already prepared myself for 100 possibilities. I'm not Song Wuyo." Song Wuyo pondered for a moment before speaking the truth. She looked into his eyes calmly, without any intention of lying or joking. Gu Yanhao also knew that ever since she changed, she was not a person who liked to joke. Her words made his heart skip a beat. Even though he was already prepared for it, his deep eyes emitted an unfathomable light as he quietly stared at Song Wuyo. When he heard what Song Wuyo said, he started to panic. Gu Yanhao stared at her. Since she was not Song Wuyo, then where was his wife, Song Wuyo? Where is he now? "Go on," he said slowly. Song Wuyo looked straight into his eyes and suddenly smiled. I can see that you are thinking about where the real Song Wuyo is. Ah ho, the real Song Wuyo is dead. Bang! Gu Yanhao's heart suddenly clenched. The glass in his hand suddenly fell from his hand and fell to the floor, shattering into pieces. He frowned, and his whole body shook. A figure with heavy makeup suddenly appeared in his mind. This figure flashed across his mind very quickly. It was just a short moment, but it made his heart tighten and clench. There were some fragments that couldn't help but appear. That petite and thin girl, hugging her knees as she sat at the door of his room, accompanying him through the painful days of losing his parents. That pair of stubborn eyes looked at him resolutely. Gu Yanhao, I like you. I must marry you in this life. Whether you like me or not, I will definitely become your wife. Chapter 400. She laid naked beside him and looked at him proudly. I gave you my first time, so you have to marry me. Grandpa is already waiting for us at the door. I'll go out now and tell Grandpa that I'm already yours. Gu Yanhao, I said that I'll have you, so I'll definitely have you. Humph. Her face, which was distorted by her arrogance, had a tinge of pain as she looked at him in despair. If you want to divorce me, I'll die in front of you. I'll really slit my wrist and kill myself. Gu Yanhao, I love you so much, but why? Why won't you look me in the eye? Why can't you feel how good I am to you? Why can't you give me any warmth? If you divorce me, what's the point of living? I want to die. I want to die in front of you so that you'll never be able to live with your conscience. These scenes made him realize that being entangled by that arrogant woman was also a form of happiness. Gu Yanhao felt a tinge of pain in his heart. She was dead, but he didn't know. Gu Yanhao let go of Song Wuyo's hand and poured himself a cup of water. He sat back down and drank a few mouthfuls. Song Wuyo looked at him quietly. She could clearly see that he was trying hard to suppress his emotions. When she saw that he had heard that Song Wuyo was really dead, a tinge of pain flashed past his eyes. Her heart sank slightly. He must have had some feelings for the Song Wuyo in the past, right? Otherwise, why would he marry her with such a noble status? After she died, she came back and her personality changed for the better. He loved her more and more. Little did he know that his real wife was already dead, and the one he loved was a fake one. Where's her corpse? Gu Yanhao asked in a low voice. When Song Wuyo heard that, the corner of her mouth twitched. I haven't finished speaking. Gu Yanhao raised his eyebrows and turned to look at her deeply. Song Wuyo raised her head slightly and looked at him faintly. Why don't you ask me who I am? Gu Yanhao turned around slightly and looked at Song Wuyo coldly like a king. Then, who are you? Song Wuyo smiled and asked tentatively, Ah ho, if I were to stand before you with her, who would you choose? She knew that it was pretentious of her to ask this, but she was anticipating his answer. Gu Yanhao looked at her deeply. Is she really dead? Song Wuyo was slightly stunned. Gu Yanhao took her hand and looked at the scar she had left behind when she tried to commit suicide by cutting her wrist. Do you still remember how this scar came about? He looked at Song Wuyo with a burning gaze. Song Wuyo lowered his eyes and looked at the scar on his wrist. I remember. If you insist that she's dead, then you must have been possessed by a ghost. Song Wuyo raised her head and looked at Gu Yanhao in a daze. He actually suspected that she was possessed by a ghost. Song Wuyo smiled. Did it feel good to sleep with a female ghost? Gu Yanhao knocked on her forehead with his finger. Do you think that I'm in the mood to joke at a time like this? You said that I was possessed by a ghost. Isn't that a joke? Song Wuyo rubbed her forehead and complained. Hurry up and say it. Gu Yanhao's face was stern. In order for him not to be frightened and for him to accept it properly, Song Wuyo decided to keep him in suspense. I've already said that it's very scary. Stand firm. Hurry up and say it. His patience was almost worn out and he could not wait to know the result. Actually, oh. There's a ghost. There's a ghost. Chapter 401. Ban Jianing, who was in the room, suddenly screamed. Song Wuyo was shocked and quickly got up and rushed in. Ban Jianing's unfinished pear fell to the ground. He hugged his head with both hands and stared at the window in horror. There's a ghost, there's a ghost. Song Wuyo came in and hugged him, comforting him. Jianing, don't be afraid. I'm here. Jianing, don't be afraid. Ban Jianing looked terrified. The window keeps making noises. There's a ghost knocking on the window. There's a ghost. Song Wuyo looked at the window sharply and patted Ban Jianing's back gently. Was the other party really going to kill Ban Jianing? Gu Yanhao walked in with a gun in his hand and stood in front of the window. Clap, 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 clap. The sound of knocking on the window was heard again. Ban Jianing was even more scared now. He curled up in Song Wuyo's arms. Gu Yanhao quickly opened the window and was ready to shoot at any time. However, when he opened the window, he saw a bird. The bird was stuck in the anti-theft net and kept pecking at the window with its beak. It even flapped its wings and knocked on the window. When Gu Yanhao opened the window, the bird seemed to be frightened and flew away. Song Wuyo looked at Gu Yanhao cautiously. At this moment, Gu Yanhao closed the window and drew the curtains. He turned around and looked at them. It's a bird knocking on the window. Song Wuyo frowned. Aren't all the birds resting at this time? Could it be that the other party is playing a trick? Gu Yanhao looked at Song Wuyo deeply and said, it's possible. Song Wuyo's eyes were cold and thoughtful. Seeing her like this, Gu Yanhao's heart twitched slightly. In the past, Song Wuyo had never looked at him like this. Sister, I'm so scared. There's a ghost wants to eat me. Ban Jianing was so scared that his whole body was trembling. Even his voice was trembling. Song Wuyo hugged him and comforted him. That sound was not a ghost. It was a big bird pecking at the glass window. Jianing is not afraid. Tomorrow, brother-in-law will take you away from here. Let's go back to our small manor. No bird or bad person can get close to Jianing. Jianing, you don't have to be afraid. Gu Yanhao stood there, quietly looking at Song Wuyo. The thought of her not being his wife made him feel uncomfortable. He frowned. If she wasn't Song Wuyo, then who was she? Why did she look exactly like Song Wuyo? Ban Jianing timidly glanced at Gu Yanhao and said, I want Mushin, I want Mushin. Song Wuyo didn't know whether to laugh or cry. At this time, Mushin is already asleep. I want Jiming. I want Jiming. Song Wuyo looked at Gu Yanhao. Ah ho, call Jiming to come back. She didn't know if Lu Jiming was seriously injured. Okay. Gu Yanhao put the gun away. He didn't have Lu Jiming's number, so he went out and asked Dade to call him. Lu Jiming and Su Jing were sitting on the lounge chairs in the hospital hall. Will it be better with an ointment? Looking at Lu Jiming's painful face, Su Jing asked worriedly. Lu Jiming shook his arm and did some exercises. If the doctor says it will be better, then it will be better. Sigh, I'll do an ultrasound tomorrow. Are you going to sit here until dawn? Lu Jiming looked at Su Jing with a smile. I can lie here until dawn. There were so many chairs here, and he didn't want to go back and disturb Song Wuyo and Gu Yanhao. At this time, Ade appeared. In the big hall, in the quiet night, Ade attracted their attention as soon as he appeared. Lu Jiming looked at Adler, who was walking over in confusion. Chapter 402. Ade came to them and looked at Lu Jiming. Young Master Jining wants you to go back and accompany him. Lu Jiming shrugged his shoulders. This Jining is really willful. Why did he not want Su Jing to accompany him? Why did he want a man to accompany him? After Lu Jiming returned to accompany Ban Jining calmed down. He finally fell asleep under Dong Shuabing's coaxing. After that, Lu Jiming fell asleep on the sofa. Su Jing, Ade, and the bodyguards were waiting outside the ward. Only Gu Yanhao and Song Wuyo were left in the ward. Gu Yanhao was standing on the balcony, smoking a cigarette. The smoke lingered around him, making his delicate and deep face appear to be filled with worry. He was exuding an aura of indifference, which made Song Wuyo's heart sink. Song Wuyo was standing beside Gu Yanhao. Gu Yanhao tilted his head and glanced at her, then took a puff of his cigarette. Song Wuyo looked at him. Damn, he looked sexy when he smoked. But he looked troubled, and Song Wuyo did not know what to say. He knew his wife was dead, and his heart was so heavy. If he knew his soul had transmigrated from thousands of years ago, how would he react? I'm very tired. Gu Yanhao lifted his hand and rubbed her neck gently. He looked at her deeply. If there's anything, we can talk about it when we get back to M City. He did not want to hear any answers now. She said Song Wuyo was dead. Then who was she? Why was her figure and appearance exactly the same as his wife? Could it be that medical science was so advanced now, and plastic surgery was possible? Even the scars on her wrists were so similar, so she pretended to be his wife. Was she greedy for wealth or was she a spy? He did not want to hear any more. He would rather believe that what she said earlier was just a promise. What he saw was not real. Song Wuyo looked at him quietly. Did he not want to listen anymore? Sleep for a while. If you don't sleep, the sun will rise. Gu Yanhao turned around and walked in. Song Wuyo turned sideways and looked at him quietly. Was that it? Gu Yanhao went into the bathroom. She didn't know what he was doing inside. In the end, Song Wuyo didn't wait for her and fell asleep on the sand. She was too tired. After the fight with the fake nurse, she was exhausted. Perhaps it was because the air conditioner was on too high. She hugged her body and curled up slightly. Gu Yanhao walked out of the bathroom and squatted down in front of the sofa. His deep and complicated phoenix eyes carefully looked at her face. Her fair and tender face, delicate and pretty facial features, good-looking eyebrows, high nose bridge, curly eyelashes. She was so beautiful that it was soul-stirring. Her beauty was so natural that it was exactly the same as his ex-wife. He couldn't see any flaws in her plastic surgery. Gu Yanhao suddenly laughed. Maybe this woman was lying to him. She lied to him that she was dead. This joke was not funny at all. He stretched out his hand and wanted to carry her to the bed. But he remembered that she was a light sleeper and might wake her up if he carried her to the bed. So, he stopped. He took the quilt and gently covered her with it before lying down on the bed. He used one hand to support his head and opened his eyes to look at the ceiling. That man's exquisite and handsome face was full of worries, after dawn. Under Migu's arrangement, Gu Yanhao, Song Wuyo, Ban Jianing, and the rest returned to M City. They knew that the other party would kill Ban Jianing. So, Lu Jiming and the bodyguards secretly escorted him to the highway. Migu dressed up as Ban Jianing and got into Ade's car. Gu Yanhao and Song Wuyo drove another car and took the highway. Gu Yanhao's car was in front and Audie's car followed behind. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.